But let's talk about this very controversial story and drama on the front page of the Standard. Drama's phase of dissent beaten into submission. That is Moses Kuria said to have eaten his humble pie. He was forced to apologize for the second time for his New Year Eve outburst, but he emphasized that what he said was taken out of context by his political enemies. Then Ruto Uhuru comes in battle for Jubilee. Of course, yesterday we saw that a group of women leaders coming together to say that they're embracing each other from different political parties and saying that they are in unison, they are uniting to support the handshake between the president and the former prime minister. No mention of the deputy president, but all the same, this conversation is happening, and I'm just wondering, how do we get out of this?
You see, by the way, Sam, on a serious
Why are you
note,
laughing though?
You know, we've just come from talking about education, we've come from talking about agriculture, you know, and agriculture actually happens to be among the key pillars of the Big Four agenda for the president, which just tells us there's so much that we need to be doing rather than politicking. The problem that I see, you know, is that the politics now have become the center stage. And barely can we do anything without us going back to politics. We have been treated to this group saying this, we have been treated to this group calling a press conference, we have been treated to Moses Kuria saying this, you know, saying the, you know, the words that he uttered were taken out of context. He's come to explain, he said actually he was directing those words to the governor. Other people have taken it. We've had other people, the likes of Ngujiri and Naivasha. So it is actually a very convoluted environment. But the issue that probably, on my view, I still hold to the fact that the handshake was a good thing. And why was the handshake a good thing? Any leader today must be so happy that we created a peaceful environment. And why we needed that peaceful environment, even to somebody like the deputy president, who probably is looking to take the reins of power after Uhuru serves his term, is that now you have an environment where you need to seriously think of development. Why do you need that? So that at 2022, given a very peaceful and conducive environment, you can show Wanjiko, this is my scorecard. This is what I've been able to do. I've been able to traverse all the corners of the country. I've been able to deal with matters development. I've been able to keep my promise that I promised me and Uhuru we were going to do. Our Big Four agenda is here. We've been able to do ABC, and here is our scorecard. You as a Kenyan, now judge us by what we've done. That environment, if we are going to use that handshake to actually ensure the matters and development agenda has been carried forth, it will work. But if we are going to throw water and think that, you know, or to pour water rather, on that handshake, and think that there are other underlying issues that came with that handshake, then we will not get it right. And that's why I keep insisting. Yes, when the handshake happened, probably many people thought it had come with other, you know, weird connotations. Granted be that. But I believe, and these two Heshimiwas can actually lead to this fact, that on anything that leaders do, Sam, we need to be a nation that give peace a second chance. We are just coming from a very heated campaign. Just 1 year removed. Look where we are. We are again taking this country into that path. Here we are now creating almost two scenarios where we say, President Uhuru believes in this, Deputy President Ruto is almost believing in this other thing. And we've seen, you know, Murathe pronounced himself to something that has become almost a talk show, rather. And then every media is talking about the utterances of Murathe. Yes, sometimes I feel, you know, I wish he did not utter those words when he was still at the neck of Jubilee, but he did. And, you know, we need to move on from that. If Jubilee are not going to come to us and say, that house is burning, we've had the SG the other day coming to say, you know, Jubilee is intact, you know, the administration is intact, you know, and we move forward. We are we are going ahead with the agendas the Jubilee administration said, so be it. But we cannot be a nation that is going to be pouring cold water on people fighting to come together and bring the country together, fully well knowing where we came from in 2007, 2008. And I believe if we are going to build the success on this handshake, you know, and waiting to get the report from Building Bridges, it gives actually a very good platform to Jubilee leadership to be able to do everything that they promised Wanjiko, so that at the end of the day, they cannot say we were unable to deliver because the situation or the environment was not conducive.
And I want us to take this conversation forward because it's 2019 and service delivery doesn't wait. If someone is sick, they just need to be treated. So how do you ensure that, because we've seen the regional politics sort of getting heated up, in Mount Kenya region, you have seen what is happening. In the Rift Valley, you've seen the demand that you have to endorse the deputy president. We've seen Ukambani, now the three governors are uniting and there's a perception that they want to topple the leadership of Kalonzo Musyoka, whether true or not. So how do you ensure that we have these regional politics, competitive politics, but at the same time, this does not cloud the development agenda of the country and service delivery to the people?
Yeah, let me start with Moses Kuria. Somebody really I don't know from close range, but one can read that is a very good, well-intentioned politician, though a maverick with excess native courage. But I would not be worried about Moses Kuria. I would be worried about the people who created him when he went back after saying those words, because I'm sure he must have been received very well in that particular function. But so it worries me that we've allowed to make the president a hostage of community interest, because what Moses Kuria said is true for the people of that particular area, because they don't see the president as the president of the republic. They see him as one of their own, and they would expect him to deal with the Kiambu the way he deals with other places. So that is my worry, because we are pigeonholed our leaders in the sense that if you come from this village, you must make the village better than the other villages. Now, when it comes to the transition in Jubilee, I think it is good internal democracy. Let Jubilee have its own challenges, but that is part of what we call internal democracy in political parties. But what worries me most is this narrative that there was an agreement between Uhuru and William for them 10 years, which the president has been saying on the clip. And I hope that was at the spur of the moment for him to get some political mileage. I say so because I strongly believe that Ruto got the best deal out of this arrangement of Uhuru-Ruto government, because he got 50% of what he wanted, and he left Uhuru with 50%, which he shared with the rest of Kenya. And we are moving on. And therefore, after 10 years, the negotiation should be started afresh with other Kenyans.
Is that claim backed with evidence?
With facts, because we know which minister belongs to which side of the equation.
And how do you assign a minister to a certain side of the equation?
Well, I know, I've been a minister before, and I think I know our government dispatch is done. And therefore, we know that so-and-so is closer to so-and-so, and reasons why they are appointed. That's a fact.
Yet they're supposed to be serving Kenyans.
Yeah, you are supposed to be serving Kenyans, but if you are a cabinet minister from this particular equation, people know that you come from that equation. And we know some of the ministers where the deputy president was absent in their swearing in because they never believed those ministers should have been in government.
Wow.
Yeah, so these are some of the things that have happened. But more important is democracy about two communities. Democracy is about the entire Kenya.
True.
And that's why I support the Building Bridges initiative, because that is when we shall come to national cohesion, where it doesn't matter from which tribe you come from. As long as you have the credentials, we'll elect you. You see, what is happening, Sam, is that we are killing the depth of discussion on who should be our next president. What are the credentials that he must possess? By talking about an agreement that the rest of us were not party to. Are we saying now we have subjugated the voting capacity of millions of Kenyans to an arrangement that was between two people who are running away from ICC? No, these are facts, and we must face them. In fact, they were united by ICC. And their second term was also a furtherance of the discussions that they had had about their earlier term. And therefore, in between, there are so many things that have happened in government. That's why people are talking about you are persecuting our side of the equation.
Okay.
When people are arrested.
All right, Mheshimiwa Kirwa, you've said quite a few things that are controversial. But Mheshimiwa Martha, as you respond to that, I also want you to put into consideration the question that I asked Mheshimiwa, but he decided not to respond to it. This aspect of competitive politics that are not just in central Kenya, but also the Rift Valley, in Ukambani, how do we survive all this and ensure that the agenda of developing this nation continues with or without these politics?
You know, Sam, I don't know why he didn't answer that question. He got carried with something else. But let me say something. You know, we are living in very interesting times. We are having people talking about JUbilee who are outside. They are even calling press statements, you know, and issuing statements about JUbilee, a party they don't belong to.
Right.
Which is, it's okay, because we also talk about them. When ANC is crumbling, we also give our opinion. But it's merely...
We rarely do.
Yeah, which is merely an opinion. And I think I would agree with Kiro on one thing, that party democracy, we have our own internal mechanisms. We've even had the deputy president himself say that the scramble for the ticket is actually outlined in the constitution. Right. If it's done any other way without a nomination process, someone can go to court and challenge it, because the constitution is a legal document. And he said further to that he's not afraid of that. And I don't know why we really speak for him. But going to your question, I think what we are seeing, and I had said it in my opening remarks, is that it is unfortunate that we are already raising the temperature so high, it feels like we are in 2021. And yet there is no election this year, none next year, or the year after. It is unfortunate, because in other countries, elections are done and it doesn't really affect the economy directly. But in this country, elections and our economy are intertwined. They are together. And that is where the problem is. When we had the elections in 2017, even the stock exchange plummeted. Even the NSE felt the effect. Sure. Doing business was crazy in this country. The repeat election did not help the situation. It worsened it. And after the handshake of 9th March, even the NSE recovered in overnight. And there was total recovery, or almost total recovery of the economy.
So you need to sustain that.
So my problem, and why I agree with the women on the front covers today, I wasn't in that meeting because I was held up elsewhere. But we must support the bridging building bridges initiative. But that does not mean that now you support Uhuru or you support Ruto. I mean, when did we stop being Uhuruto? And I'm talking that as a person who is in JUbilee. I'm asking that. And I'm saying that from inside JUbilee. Right. Because for me, I mean, you cannot choose. You want to support the president and not the deputy. This tanga and this kieleweke is like telling a child to choose between the mother and the father. And I'm using that symbolically, because the deputy president is going to be the deputy president, even when he campaign, until he stops being the deputy president. And we must demystify this issue of Article, I think it's 148 of the Constitution, that Murathe was alluding to, that you cannot run for election. And I say that is madness. Even as a layman, if you read that article, it only says you cannot be a deputy president for another 10 years. Right. He's at liberty to go to get interpretation from the Supreme Court. But let us not mix issues. The issue of regional politics, and I will talk to it from this perspective. I have already given you examples. We have done 2 elections. This year, we are going to have a census, which is already being politicized. Right. We have seen the pastoralist MPs already issue a presser on it. We have seen other people pronounce themselves politicians on the census and making it a political tool already, because it is involved in how we share the revenue and how we share resources. So it is a political problem. It is a political issue. We also want to throw in the referendum into it, which is another divisive process. We also want to throw in a transition presidency who is not defending, which is also another one. No, I'm just saying that because the president will not get a 3rd term. That's it by the Constitution. So it is also another highly emotive process. So as a country, can we sustain that and be able to flourish economically. The president has made a lot of turnaround, even in terms of attracting people to invest in this country and recovery from what we have been in the last. And the reason he's frustrated is exactly that you want us to start again. And we are already facing 2-3 major processes ahead of us. The census, the referendum, the election, and all this within 3 years. How does he safeguard his legacy? How does he perform when there is all that noise? And I support him in that we must tone it down. There is no election. There is no vacancy in the president's position. There is no vacancy. And all of us must do our work. Let us be able to push for development, because that one is not a crime, and I must defend it. Right. The reason I defend the message in Moses Kuria's message is exactly that just because the president is a Kikuyu, he cannot hear Kikuyu please. That is not right. The Kikuyus are at liberty to actually petition for better development. The Luos are at liberty to ask for more. The Kalenjins are at liberty, and that's why you see when it's a maize, they come together. Everyone in this country, the regional blocks, the regional blocks, Sam, must be allowed to flourish, because that's how resources are allocated. They are scarce, and the scarcity of their nature is that the nature of their scarcity is that we must have the liberty to petition for these resources. But more importantly, when we sit in parliament, we must balance the nation. In terms, and the budget is what does
the sharing of resources.
The sharing of resources.
All right.
We must have the liberty and not stifle, but we also must respect. I don't agree with Moses Kuria's utterances. You must not quote me out of context. But the message in it is something that anyone is at liberty to do democratically. But doing it when you're,
no, it was not.
Whatever it was, it did come out right, but it is a right by everyone to do it.
Okay, Martha. Before I give you a chance to say your final word, I just want to look at some of the feedback that has been coming through from the viewers. Someone is saying that at least the president and his handshake brigade have realized that using maize prices and NCPB has zero negative impact on the deputy president. That is William Ruto's political growth. That is James from Kitale. I don't understand what exactly you mean. Because I don't think there's any relationship between how much a bag costs and how electable the DP
we are
is
making
in
it everything about him.
About him.
Right. Someone else says that, wake up guys, we've been talking about corruption since the 60s. Now let's reverse the evidence and presume you are corrupt, and it's your duty to show how clean you are. You didn't leave your name, but that's quite an interesting perspective. But it would not stand with the constitution, which presumes you innocent until proven guilty, unless we change that. Good luck with the referendum. Now, someone says that the reason why Chapter 6 is moribund is because our president...
No. You're going to censor that.
You've censored that.
Someone says that we start with quantity, then when everybody is on board, we embark on quality. I think he is talking about this is Peter, talking about education. We have to start somewhere. That's in line with what Martha was saying earlier on. Someone says that, what did I say that? Any sane Kenyan should support the new curriculum rollout. This system, this new system is what is going to save us from the current one, which only teaches what to think and not how to think. Good point. This is a long-term solution to unemployment. Kenyans will need to change the way we view things. That is, you said that it's to talk Kenya. That's the Twitter handle. Interesting time. So
some very quickly, and I'll start from a statement that Mheshimiwa made. You see, I totally agree with you on the issue about corruption, and before I come to the issue about our party.
You don't have a lot of time, though.
I'll make it very quickly.
In 30 seconds, yes.
It's not the fact that we do not have, and I've mentioned this before, it's not the fact that we don't have a very strong penal code. Why people really, and why corruption continue to thrive in this country is because of one thing and one thing only. People can get away with it, period. They've mastered the system, they know they can get away with it, and you can live comfortably thereafter. So I think that is why corruption continue to, to perpetuate. Very quickly on the issue about the politics that we are reading. You see, JUbilee, yes, they, like I said, they came in with a lot of goodwill, and then we were treated to the handshake, and now to the building bridges. And why I think we need to support all these multifaceted approaches is because, one, we must realize, contrary and against whatever everybody is saying, whether it's Moses Kuria or anybody else from that divide, we must realize that the president, as per our constitution, he's the head, rather, of
the head of state.
The head of state, and the person that everybody looks up to. When he was campaigning in the second round, he was talking about 40 million strong. He's in, that means he was trying as much as possible to include and involve everything. The issue about what Mheshimiwa was talking about, communities pigeonholing the president. Yes, I understand about development. It is to first understand that he is a symbol of national unity. We don't talk about a symbol of a particular region.
Yes.
It is national unity, which brings the leaders now, the governors, the senators, the women rep, the MCAs and the MPs, bring them to the field where now they must start thinking about the counties they represent and the areas they represent. The issue of waking up one day and telling Wanjiko one thing and then claiming, what, we are not developed. You need to come up with a very solid plan. And when I talk about a solid plan, it's not only your election year or your election term of 5 years. No, it is you sit down in your region and say, for the next 20 years, even when we will not be serving, this is how we want this county to look like. It is, when we talk about devolution and machine and all these resources going to mashinani, it is now for Wanjiko to be bringing out leaders who can think, not for their term in office, but rather when they are not. So I think this issue of, politicizing each and everything and bringing it down back to the president, I think it will not work. What we should be talking, and what the conversation that we should be having is ensuring that counties have a long-term plan. Yes, as we discussed the short-term plans, we should have each and every county have a serious lay down framework on matters long-term plan. And guess what? If some we are going to really inject vitality into such thinking, this country will experience serious change.
Muthuma, you ate into the time for Mheshimiwa Kiru and Mheshimiwa Martha. I'll just give you 20 seconds. And
well, in 20 seconds, one, we need to be genuinely cohesive as a nation. That is where the rain started beating us. Two, we need to support the president, not because of him as the person, but he has very brilliant ideas that he can transform this nation. Finally, let us have discussion about the devolution of resources so that they have meaning and they are integrated. What she does at the constituency, what the governor does at the county, and what we do nationally must be coordinated.
Okay, if that's 20, I'm giving you 10 seconds.
I've already done, in fact, I've already said what I needed to say, that there is no vacancy in the presidency, and I think you cannot have a split presidency and say you support Uhuru and not Ruto. It is the presidency, and we must support that and also include the deputy, the former prime minister, because of the handshake and now the embrace by the women, so that we have a stable country to be able to thrive for business and to be able to have an economical recovery from what we have suffered earlier in terms of the electioneering and extended electioneering period.
Right. And
we also must be role models to our young kids out there. Everything we utter, even as leaders, let us monitor, because they are learning from us. The reason you'll see them issue and utter words that are not proper, and like the other day, I don't know what school that was. The reason we see a drunk kid on TV is because we are the role models. So we must be careful, even as leaders, whatever we mention with our mouth. And I can say that because there is a story we didn't get to, and I hope that this flares up in the 2022 does not degenerate to what is happening in Joro today. That we are already making it a community issue. You told us you don't vote for us, you'll see what we'll do to you. You did to us 208, we are now waiting for you. That language, the people who suffer are the women, are the children, because it's your children who are killed, it's your husbands, and you're left with children to take care of. So we really must tone it down.
Right. And finally, Jumba says that what if agencies start investigation silently after getting information about a certain scandal without the suspects knowing, just to get concrete evidence? So when you are told to step aside and taken to court, about 90% essential information is intact. Well, I hope the DPP is listening. Then finally, a comment from Eldred says that the huge challenge in this country at the moment is politics of convenience. While this may be normal for our politicians, the ordinary Mwananchi is left confused and may see betrayal. Indeed, it will get worse as we deal with succession, census, revenue allocation, referendum, boundary review. Sensitive leadership can save us from self-destruction.
So.
And I think that's the point that I want to leave that discussion.
That's true.
On, Komen, asante sana. And thank you, all of you, for coming to Daybreak on Citizen TV, the first Friday that you're having Daybreak on in 2019.